Welcome to the Business Loan Brokers Podcast.
Here's the game plan.
Brought to you by Jansen Fugate and Evan Arancibia. A podcast by business loan brokers.
Gotta have money.
For business loan brokers.
I pump those numbers up. Those are rookie numbers.
Showing you how to create an extremely profitable business.
Hey, what's up, everybody? It's Jansen Fugate, and welcome to the Business Loan Brokers Podcast. I've got my right-hand man, Evan.
What's up, man?
How you doing?
Doing well. Business Loan Brokers. You hear that?
Welcome to the Business Loan Brokers Podcast, episode number 1.
Number 1. Let's do it.
Yeah, this should be good, man.
Okay.
So I thought in this episode, what we would do is we would essentially break down, what this podcast is all about.
Okay.
Who this podcast is for.
Mm-hmm.
The benefits that the individuals who are going to watch this podcast, what they're going to get from it, why they should tune in to each and every one of our episodes. Mm-hmm. And then also just kind of talk a little bit about ourselves, who we are as outside of work, who we are inside of work, what got us here, right? How long we've been in the industry, some of the successes and some of the failures, and just kind of start from there.
Let's do it.
All right, cool.
Okay.
Let's start off with just kind of talking about some of the topics that we're going to be covering in future episodes.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, one thing I just want to add real quick to this podcast too, so for the listeners, that the first thing that's going to set the tone for the rest of the podcast you're going to listen to is that I've only been doing this officially for less than a year, just so you know.
Yeah, that's important.
I've been doing this less than a year. And how long have you been doing this?
Over 14 years now.
Okay. So why is that important? There's a couple things. Why do you think that's important?
Well, I think it gives a good contrast, from a perspective of, hey, we've got 14 years of industry experience, a lot of deep-rooted connections, done a lot of things, had a lot of epic failures that go along with those
definitely.
With those epic stories. And so a lot to be learned. And then I think you bring, fresh eyes, fresh perspective.
Thanks.
And a success story that goes along with a quick period of time frame stepping into the industry. And so I'm excited about that kind of different dynamic, being able to kind of play off of that.
It's good. It's kind of like one of those movies like in the 90s where you have like the senior cop and like the rookie cop, right?
That's right.
But like the rookie cop comes in and is like kind of saves the day sometimes, and then there's like the senior cop that's like, man, shame on you, but I freaking love you. And that's that's kind of how it's gonna go, man. And
exactly. Well, there's a lot to learn.
There's a lot to learn. There's a million ways to make $1 million in this industry. And so to share your way and your perspective and your journey, I think is going to relate to a lot of people. I think a lot of people are going to be able to reciprocate. And I think a lot of people are going to be motivated by the success that you've seen because, I've been coaching and training a lot of brokers for the last 5 years. And it's not... Thousands.
Yeah, thousands. I mean, it's not often that someone steps into the industry and kind of sees the success that you have seen pretty quickly, and that you've come up against some and fought some really amazing battles, and you stepped into the industry from a position of strength. So I'm excited to kind of highlight that in just a second about you, because
thanks, man. And it's important, right? So we're kind of setting the tone here, but it's important because we like you just said, I believe there's a lot of business loan brokers right now that really don't understand what this industry is. The good, the bad, the great, the weak. There's so many different strengths and weaknesses here, and I'm excited to talk about that. So let's kind of dive into it. I'll give a background a little bit about myself. So all right, Evan Arancibia. How do you say my last name? Is Arancibia. It's a great way for you guys to know. You can find me on Facebook. I'm usually on LinkedIn a little bit, but Facebook is pretty much my jam. So if you want to kind of know what I'm doing, I'm very open about what I do. I share everything, every meeting. I mean, I'm very active in the Facebook community, and you can see that. So if you guys want to go on there, you can see exactly what I'm doing day to day. But let's kind of start from the very beginning here. So I'm 34 years old. Okay, 34 years old. I have a wife. I have a kid. Been married for 10 years. I have another one on the way, actually, due in just a few months. I do. Yeah, I got another one coming up.
Dude, congratulations. I didn't know that.
Yeah, I got another one. I got a little girl coming, man. So
that's amazing.
Yeah, it's going to be coming in April, so that'll be cool.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Hopefully it's April 2nd because that's my birthday.
Is it really?
Yeah.
I didn't know that. Mine's April Fool's.
No way, bro. That's incredible.
All right, you guys witness this live right here. I didn't actually know that. Yeah, mine's April Fool's.
That's cool.
So that's cool, man.
Yeah, go us.
Yeah, go us.
Some of the coolest people I know are born in April.
Honestly, most people
starting
I know
with like the first and then the second. And I know people born on the 3rd and the 4th. And my little brother's born on the 7th. And
oh, really?
He's pretty badass. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like April babies are always like the most chill. I don't know. Anytime I meet April people, I'm like, I'm gonna like you.
Yeah.
Like you're probably a cool person. Anyways, so going back, so I'm actually an immigrant. I was born in Chile. My family immigrated here in 1993. So we immigrated here. My dad was one of those traditional cleaning people. Like we would actually go out there and clean middle class houses and like commercial buildings. So we cleaned a lot growing up. And I got to see a lot of businesses. And so at a very young age, my dad was never really a business owner. He just kind of cleaned and made money and worked a full-time job. But I got to see a lot of businesses. I was around a lot of entrepreneurs. And at a very young age, even at a young age, I mean, I remember door knocking at 8 years old, man, literally 8 years old, going up to a house and be like, hey, can I like clean your house, or can I rake your yard or something? And people would feel bad. And we're here in Utah, and so there's a lot, there's not a lot of, white people. I'm a cute little chubby brown kid back then. So one of the nice cool things about that, I use my cuteness to door knock, and they're like, here's $10, $20. And back in the 90s and early 2000s, when you're getting that's a lot of money back then. So even as a kid, it was hilarious, man. I was spending money at 7-Eleven I shouldn't be doing. But anyway, so I had an entrepreneurship background back then. Fast forward into adulthood, I got into sales. One of my first jobs was actually selling real estate coaching packages as a setter. So if you guys don't know what a setter is, it's somebody that pretty much gets hundreds of leads, and you just call these leads and explain the program, and then position that to usually the closer. That was my first dabble into pretty much what I'm doing today in the commercial finance industry. So
why is that? Because you have real estate investors that are essentially looking for funding for their flips and fix.
Yeah, exactly. Mm-hmm. So I was selling, there's multiple products I was selling. I think I was selling like Dean Graziosi and then like some Robbie Kiyosaki and Jack Canfield product. Okay. So there's like different coaching products. I didn't at the time know how legendary those guys were. Now I definitely do. But the great thing about that is I was always attracted to the financing aspect. So like, how do they actually fund these, $100,000, $200,000 deals? I never really knew that at the time, but I always paid attention because I was making, 20, 30, 40K back then, which is really good money back then, over 10 years ago. But now, fast forward, I worked for different jobs, worked for different sales jobs, worked for software sales. I also worked for different finance companies, picked up credit card stacking, started my own credit card stacking company, and then eventually went into financial advising and asset management. Realized I do not like managing assets. Some people can do it, but man, I'd rather give money. I'd rather not take money. It's a lot easier to give money, and in lending you can do that.
Let's stop real quick. Let's stop. That's interesting. So you were working with real estate. You got an inside peek into kind of how they're funding. You worked for a credit card stacking company, or you learned credit card stacking and then started your own?
Correct. Yeah. So there's multiple companies that I worked for that they were doing credit card stacking, which I didn't know what that was. And through picking up a couple of things working for these companies, I actually learned a lot of it by myself online. You can actually do a lot. There's hundreds of banks out there. I went and called a bunch of different banks that were available. I put together little underwriting programs. I picked up underwriting from working at these jobs, understood how to read credit profiles, and eventually was like, I can probably do this myself, and did it myself. And then eventually I was like, shoot, this is working pretty well, and then got into financial advising. So I didn't actually do it very long. I did credit card stacking for, less than a year for my own company, and then got into asset management. But yeah, to answer your question, that's kind of where I got from.
That's cool.
Yeah, so I mean, when you're in sales, depending on the industry you're in, you're going to learn a lot about different types of investments that are available, and that's something for me that kind of stood out, which kind of led me to getting into commercial financing. And then kind of fast forward from 2019, 2021, I didn't want to do asset management anymore. So I was like, man, I really want to, when I was doing credit card stacking, I really liked the idea of, I had a couple different lenders that I work with on the commercial side, and I closed a few of those. And I was like, man, the commissions are pretty big in comparison to what I get when I charge someone. And then once I get paid on the commercial side, I'm done. What I didn't like about credit card stacking is, depending on the program that you're working with or the partner that would send you a deal, they'd always like, in the back of my mind, I'm like, man, is this going to charge back in like 30 or 60 days? Mm-hmm. I didn't like that. It terrified me. And so I'm like, I don't want to do this. I don't like the idea of like, I have to put all my trust in my business into, hopefully the person that sells that program is doing their job right. I didn't like that. That was a lot of pressure, which is what led me to financial advising. I was like, okay, well now I don't have to deal with any of that. But I realized that there's still a lot of pressure from the fact that you have to, if someone's portfolio goes down 20%, you're getting a big phone call that day, you know what I mean? And so I didn't like that idea. So then fast forward, I was learning about commercial financing. And so I thought I'd go out there and professionally get trained, which I've done that. I got professionally trained. I got my own lenders. I built relationships with all my own lenders. And it's kind of, at that point, I had all the tools to get started. And so fast forward, I launched officially. So my entity was set up in May of 2022. I was thinking, where are we? 2022. But I officially launched, I quit my job.
You're full-time. You're full-time in this.
Yeah, I'm full-time, by the way. I am full-time. I burn the ships. I'm one of those guys that I will punch me in the face. I just want to know what that feels like. Literally want I actually do that, man. Yeah. And so that's what I did. I closed, I quit my job. I told my manager, I was like, hey, this isn't working for me. The next day, I literally, boom, launched my business and went full-time, not knowing where this is going to go. I just had absolute faith in the industry that I knew I was going to win in this. Mm-hmm. It was just without a doubt. You feel it in your soul? Yeah. I felt it in my soul that I was going to win at this. And here we are less than a year later, I'm starting to crush it. I would say now I'm starting to crush it even more. The very first few months I was dying, but I still had that faith. You know what I mean? The
industry's amazing.
It is amazing.
You can see if you're a visionary, you're kind of an entrepreneur, and you have an understanding of this industry, like you said, you went through a pretty extensive training. Yeah. So then you come out of that training, you've got some really good confidence in yourself. Yeah. You obviously already had that confidence in yourself, which is why you made the investment that you did to go into that training. Without a doubt.
Yeah. It was like a boom. I just have to do this.
Made the investment, went through the training, burnt the ships. Yeah. All in. And then fast forward, here we are. 7 months. You're having a lot of success, and the trajectory is looking really awesome for you.
Yeah, it really is.
Fill in the gaps for us in regards to the last 7 months. Specifically, let's talk about the first 2 months when you say, it's quite the difference, right, between where you started and where you're at today. Yeah. I think, you'll get into how many applications that you're receiving, now on pretty much a daily basis, right? So fill in the gaps between now and, and the last 7 months. Specifically, let's highlight some of the trials, tribulations, some of the challenges that you were met with. Oh, yeah. Many. Over the last 7 months, specifically the first 2 months, to kind of give that inside perspective, real-time perspective, fresh perspective of what, your first 2 months may look like. Sure. Right.
Yeah. I feel like I had a different perspective of the 2 months, because I know that anytime you start something new, anytime that, there's that time where you're really kind of just figuring it out, I knew for a fact that I couldn't put so much pressure on myself that I was just going to be closing all these deals. Obviously I wanted to, right? We all want to go in big and get a touchdown right away. I just knew it's probably going to take a minute for me to close a deal. So the first 2 months really was just getting my name out there. And that was kind of my biggest, that's all I did. I just went out there. And by going out there, quite literally, boots on the ground, getting my name in front of anybody, I would go to meetup.com and I would plan out my entire week. And I would put every single real estate event, I'd put any networking event that was available. I was at every single one of them, literally. From 9 till 9 o'clock at night, I was at every single event. and I just ate food in my car and just went everywhere. I was hardly ever at home. When I was at home from like 9 to midnight, I was building systems and processes in my CRMs and all that kind of stuff because I knew that was important. I was studying my lenders, and then a couple days a week, I was calling my lenders and just understanding what their underwriting requirements are. I was telling them to teach me how to not mess up. Like, I want to be at the top of your list. Anytime you see my name come in there, you have the most perfect package. You know that Evan's deals are good. You're going to respond to those immediately because I set that expectation with them. So that's really what I did the first 2 months. Is I was out there grinding, man, building relationship, and I kind of played a game where I'm like, okay, 20 emails a week is what I'm going to do. And people, and guys, keep in mind, 20 emails, that's like super easy, right? That's like anybody can get 20 emails. But can you get 20 good organic that someone wanted to actually meet with you emails? That's a difference. That's what I was going for. I was going for seeds so I can cultivate them. I wasn't looking for any random, because I can go to Fiverr right now and get 10,000 trucking leads for $10 that have been sold 1,000 times. That's cheating. I was actually going out there and getting real organic cultivated emails and phone numbers. And that's
your style. That's
my style.
Your style is face to face, belly to belly.
Yep.
You shine in a room. Yep. You feel confident stepping into a room, and you don't have a problem approaching people.
No, I love people, man. I really enjoy talking to people. But here's the thing too, is you have to believe in yourself in any business that you have. Can you imagine if you're doing a business that you didn't believe? It would be really uncomfortable for you to talk about your product and what you do if you didn't believe in it. And so I absolutely believe in this industry without a doubt. Especially the loans that I'm closing, the reviews that I get, man, it just changes your life. So the first 2 months, going back to your question, man, it was just like head to the ground. I'm just out there, boots to the ground, just kind of, grinding. And then at that point, I started getting leads coming in, and I would get a couple. I work with a couple franchises. It ended up wasting a lot of my time. And that's kind of really what it was, is just kind of wasting a lot. It's not a waste because you learn, right? But there's a lot of things that I learned that I probably shouldn't focus my time on, and that now I know exactly what I need to do. Like, there's no doubt in my mind how I need to run my business. And since I've had that mind shift in my business, I'm getting now just the other day I had 30 businesses call me. 30
in one day.
That was on Friday.
That's rad.
30 businesses. Not everybody qualified. That's another story.
Yeah.
But
a whole
30 people called me, and I was like, I'm less than a year in. I haven't spent any money on marketing. And you're telling me that based on all my boots to the ground out there cultivating these seeds, I'm getting referrals on average. On a good day, I say I get about 2 to 10 referrals a day. That's kind of the number. Sometimes I get a couple, but sometimes I get 15, but on average 2 to 10. But Friday was a really good day, and I had so many leads, and I just got through all of them, and it just felt so good. So yeah,
that's
man.
Awesome. Dude, congratulations.
Thanks.
Good job. Yeah, you got a lot of perseverance. You entered the industry correct, from a couple different strengths, right? You already had a lot of strength as far as what you had learned in financial services and just kind of being an entrepreneur and an entrepreneur yourself. And then what you learned in financial services allowed you to kind of step in. Your personality is spot on, obviously, for kind of like face-to-face, belly-to-belly type of work. So congratulations. That's really
Thanks, man. It's really hard exciting. Work. I'm working still 80 hours a week right now.
Yeah, you're grinding.
Nonstop. But I know it's going to slow down. 2024, I know that it's going to be different for me, but you got to put in the work. And
you got to put in the work. You got to, you don't know what you don't know, right? So it's like, regardless of how good of a training you may go through or how good of a trainer even I may be, or so, like, you just don't know what you don't know. And like, you have to kind of go through that filtering process of what's my message, who's my customers, what type of loan products and funding products do I like to focus on? Because you just don't know. You may think you like this product, and you may realize that's a pain in the ass.
Real estate. I thought I did.
SBA, I think, for you too, right? Yeah, we'll cover a lot of that, I think, in future episodes with you. I'm excited to kind of dive deep. We'll probably do an episode specifically around, like, your tactics and around that way that you've seen success, just kind of approaching people and sharing that, because what I've learned thus far is really awesome, and I know that we'll be able to help a lot of people.
Yeah,
so.
That's the goal, guys. I mean, at the end of the day, my strategy works for me, and I know there's a lot of people that my strategy works for as well.
Yeah.
But there's some people that don't, and this is why there's a good balance between someone that's been in the business for less than 12 months and someone that's been in the business for 14 years. We have tons of knowledge to share on multiple angles here to help. Absolutely.
Yeah, exactly. There's a million ways to make $1 million in this industry, and it's just kind of picking one and then sticking to it, deciding what you like, what you don't like, and then constantly kind of refining your vision, your process until you get real clear. And that's where I think a lot of brokers have a hard time with, even brokers that have been in this industry for 2-3 years, and they're not seeing the success that you're seeing in 7 months. And it's because I think they just don't get, it's not that I know, they just don't get clear, right? They're chasing this product. They don't understand the types of borrowers that they want to work with, right? And then that kind of creates mixed marketing messages, which...
That's all true what you're saying. That's what I dealt with.
Even referral partners, right? Like cutting certain types of referral partners, or letting referral partners know, hey, this is the type of client that I'm looking for. Yeah. So I'm excited to kind of jump and dive deep into those into kind of a future episode.
Yeah, we could definitely cover that.
Yeah, you've done well there. Cool.
Well, let's talk about you, man. I think it's really important that you guys got my background here, but honestly, when Jansen asked me to come on this podcast, I was like, what? Jansen, you want me to come on your podcast? I was like, I'm going to be here. Absolutely. I mean, this guy's a legend.
Co-host, bro.
Yeah, there you go. I say be here, I'm the co-host. You're right. But at the same time, Jansen's a legend in this industry, and you guys are going to learn that pretty quickly with all the education he has to offer. I mean, I've learned a lot from him. I remember when I first got started, I think I called you and I was like, hey man, do you have like any scripts or anything you can give me, like any tips? And he literally was like, hey, call me at like 5 a.m. And I was like, okay, I'll call you at 5 a.m. I just went to bed 2 hours ago, but sounds good. So Jansen is a legend here, guys. And honestly, he's a serial entrepreneur and he's got a wealth of knowledge. So Jansen, tell us about you personally. Tell us about your business. I want to hear more about you, man. People need to know about you.
Cool. I appreciate that. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I'm excited about this podcast just to kind of share what I've learned. And there's a lot of good that I've learned. It's all actually really good, but I've done a lot of good things, but I've also learned a lot of really good things as well through a lot of failures in this industry. One of the things I love about this industry is it's pretty forgiving, right? It's I've been doing this for 14 years, and I still say that this industry is just now getting going. Like the industry is just now starting to kind of percolate. People are just now starting to understand like what a commercial loan broker is, what a business loan broker is. And so anyways, so there hasn't really been anybody that's kind of, been leading the way, if you will. Everyone's kind of on an island by themselves, and everyone's trying to, fend off the sharks and trying to actually survive in this industry. But I love this industry because it's so forgiving. So you can make a mistake and then you can bounce right back and
quickly too.
Very quickly. Yeah. So I love this industry. I've fallen in love with it pretty much from day one. I'll just tell a little backstory on me as a child, and then kind of like what led me to this industry. But it's interesting because we kind of have a similar story, not me being like kind of like a first or second generation immigrant, but as far as like being an entrepreneur from like a young age. When I was, I think I was 6, my old man moved me and him initially to Jackson Hole, Wyoming. He was going to start this window replacement business up there. And I always kind of had like this entrepreneurial bug from him and from my both my grandpas, who are very entrepreneurial and own their own businesses and pretty successful. So I kind of had that, kind of ingrained in me. And then when I was like 5 or 6 years old, my dad moved us up there, and then my mom and little brother and my little sister moved up there shortly after, like maybe 5 months after, 6 months after. But anyways, Jackson Hole is like cold as shit, right? And so like sub, negative 20 degrees and
jeez, that's cold.
Yeah, it can be really cold. And where I lived was this like kind of bigger community called Rafter J. And everybody had to take their garbage out to these centralized dumpsters. So me being kind of young, entrepreneurial, being with my dad and seeing what he did, I was like, I want to start my own business. And my dad was really good about essentially saying, I'll buy certain things for you, but if you want other types of things, more luxurious types of things, if you want branded type of shirts or pants, or you want something fun, you got to work for it. And that came from an early age. And so then I went around and I started collecting people's garbage bags for 25 cents. I'm like, hey, I'll take leave your garbage bag outside your door, leave a quarter, and I'll take your garbage bags every Tuesday and Thursday or something like that, and I'll collect it. So I actually went out. How I found that out is I was like, I'm going to go out there. I want to buy this snowboard. And I was like 6 years old. And my mom and dad were like, all right, we'll go out there and kind of figure it out, And at that time, it was like you could just, parents just let their kids just roam and kind of do whatever. And so anyways, I came back with a bunch of quarters and I said, oh yeah, this guy, I asked him if he had any work I could do around his house. And he said he hates taking the garbage bags out to the
crazy. You used to be able to do that back then.
Yeah.
Right?
So I had my bike, my little Red Ryder wagon tied to my bike. And I would just go around and essentially collect people's garbage cans. And then my dad really supported me with it. Then we moved back to Salt Lake and I started I was doing lawn mowing, and then I had a paper route for like probably 4 or 5 years, and that was really cool because like every day that created a lot of like work ethic in me, like super early on. And I was grateful for my parents. Like they woke up every day and we wrapped newspapers and we loaded them into the van or into my dad's truck. And then, we're at 5 o'clock in the morning delivering newspapers and stuff for like $30 paychecks a week and stuff like that.
Hey man, that's money though.
Yeah, it was fun as like a little, like 7, 8, 9-year-old. Then I did like some odd jobs, always like kind of cleaning or kind of like maintenance because you're young. I worked at a dog cleaning business dog grooming business, cleaned out all the dog, all that kind of stuff. And then, worked as a janitor for, Rosecrest Elementary, which is an elementary I went to, and I worked there for like 3 years. And then I became a dishwasher at Los Hermanos, Mexican restaurant.
Los Hermanos?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. And then
my wife loves that place.
What's that?
My wife loves that place.
Oh yeah?
Yeah, they're still around, right?
Oh, well, this was in Salt Lake, so I don't know. Are you talking about the one in Salt Lake?
I think there's a Los Hermanos in Salt Lake, and
I don't know if this one's not around.
Could be. It's a common name.
So, yeah, for sure. This one's not around anymore. Okay. But yeah, so I worked there, dishwasher, and then I was like, I'm kind of over all this maintenance shit. I'm kind of done scrubbing toilets and scrubbing dirty this, that, or whatever. So anyways, my old man was like, you should get into sales. Like your personality is in sales. And so I got into sales when I was like 16. It was an interesting between like the time we moved from back from Jackson to Salt Lake. Our family kind of struggled a little bit. We were like essentially a part of the, essentially like, I guess it's like welfare, but here in Utah, the LDS Church takes care of a lot of that. I think it's called the Bishop's Storehouse.
Bishop's Storehouse.
I think that's what it's called, which essentially is like welfare for the church members.
For like the religion here in Utah.
Yeah, exactly. Mm-hmm. So we were on essentially like welfare for a lot of the time that I was growing up. Saw my dad work with different types of businesses and try to really get them going and really buy into kind of like these startups and stuff like that. And so I'd like to kind of preference that because my dad is like instilled just this crazy like kind of like entrepreneurial dreamer, but tied to some really good work ethic. He was always trying to find these cool jobs and trying to find these be like more of an entrepreneur and trying to start these businesses or come up with these startup companies. And just, startup companies are tough. You know what I mean? So it created a little bit of stress on the family. But ultimately provided an amazing example for like us and for the kids and like perseverance. And now he owns and runs a successful company that we've kind of started together like almost 20 years ago, and he runs that full time and really just crushes it. So kind of a cool little
that's way cool,
story
man.
about, like, for me anyway, little personal insight as to kind of like how I grew up, my insight, the vision that I kind of saw from my own lens, my old man kind of like fighting to really make something for himself and make something for our family.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah, a lot of struggle, and then he was like, you know, hey, sales is where it's at, right? And he started to kind of find his rhythm, and then he was like encouraging me, go into sales, you're going to do very well. So I worked for like Convergys here in Utah.
Oh, I remember that, the call center.
A lot of people work for Convergys.
Yeah, everybody worked for Convergys.
Yeah. So I would like lied on my resume, said I was 16, but I was 15, or maybe I said I was 18 and I was 16, can't recall. Anyways, lied on my resume, got the job, but worked there from essentially 16 to 18 and just crushed it.
Nice.
Did super well. AT&T, MCI long distance.
I remember that.
Yeah,
okay.
It was fun. It was really fun. We'd call like AT&T customers that just recently switched from MCI and try to switch them over to MCI. And then we'd call like customers that just left vice versa. And we would call them and try to switch them back over.
What a game.
Oh, it was a total game. It was hilarious.
That's funny.
But yeah, I did really well there. Then my old man had linked up with this company called Xerop Medical, and obtaining medical records for law firms. Then I came on board. My dad kind of exited that company and went and worked for another one. I came on board as like their full-time sales manager at 18. And from like 18 to 21, traveling all around, doing kind of like medical sales at conventions and presentations with these big attorneys and stuff like that. It was really amazing.
18, that's crazy.
Yeah, hats off to Judd. I've got a cool story I'll share with you in regards to Judd. It's pretty much, he sold that company, took that money, started a Jaybird Audio, which is like a wireless headset. And then I was able to get him almost $1 million. And he turned around and sold that company. I'll share that story a little bit later. He turned around and sold that company for $100 million.
Oh, no way. That's awesome.
Hats off to Judd. Maybe we'll bring him in here one day.
Yeah, that'd be a cool story.
Yeah,
talk
about the power of financing and like hear a story directly from someone who was. It's a really cool story. I won't go down the rabbit hole.
We definitely want to talk about it. That sounds awesome. Man.
Yeah. So that's a cool story. So anyway, I was working for Judd, and then I was like his right-hand man, just working with him elbow to elbow. It's just an amazing opportunity. Super blessed to be able to work with him. And then he sold that company and essentially kind of gave me the blessing, so to speak, to go and start our own. And so then we started our own streamlined record retrieval like when I was 21. And then my dad now runs that pretty much full time.
Oh, no way.
Not pretty much. I mean, he runs that baby full time. He's built that thing up from pretty much nothing to something. And it was at that time that we were starting that company, where I had essentially been approached by one of my friends that was working for a company called Unsecured Line. And that company was helping entrepreneurs get credit lines, very similar to the story that you had explained, right? Had a Rolodex,
pretty similar.
Had a Rolodex of lenders, and we would call the banks, and we would let them know, hey, we've got this entrepreneur. They're looking to switch their banking relationships, and we're vetting you out to see if you might be a good fit for these entrepreneurs.
Smart.
Yeah.
Okay, that's smart.
So then they would give us all their underwriting guidelines, and they'd be like, yeah, we would love to work with this merchant, and how do we get it going? So then we would try to either structure a compensation structure directly with the bank, or we would let them know how we're going to get compensated. And then if it worked, then we would send the borrowers over there. So I worked in the lending department for only a couple of months because there was this guy named Cody who him and I become like super great friends now. But there was this guy named Cody, and he was like a 26-year-old arrogant, more arrogant than me, which is saying something, and one hell of a sales guy. And he had stepped in and really started to understand the sell of this program, and how to bring on entrepreneurs through this Unsecured Line program in a very successful like sales pitch and funnel. And so then he started really crushing it. And then that just really kind of pulled on my ego a little bit. And I was like, well, if he can do it, I can do it. And he's commission driven, and I'm over here in the lending department, and our commissions are we have big commission opportunities, but this guy's literally hunting and killing every single day. He's making multiple sales, whereas the lending department's a little bit more of a longer sales cycle. And for my style at the time, I was super attracted to. Oh yeah, I was like, I just wanted to hunt and kill.
That plate of food, and you're like, that's not fair that he's eating that.
I saw his checks. He was very vocal. He was the only sales guy in the entire company. We were like a company of like maybe 5 or 6 people. And then, so then I was like, hey, I need to go over there because if he can do it, I can do it. And then that's just going to double the amount of customers that we can bring in. You know, the lending department's pretty simple. So then, I jumped in there, never really beat him, but competed with him very, toe to toe, head to head. He would always just find a way to kind of get a couple extra deals ahead of me.
That's cool, man.
He's a grinder. It's still to this day, he's a stud in this industry. And then I started recruiting a bunch of my friends to go and work over there.
Oh, no way. Okay.
Yeah. So I recruited a bunch of my friends. We built a big sales team. I probably had like 6 or 7 of my friends that were over there. And then, they started started to be some chitter chatter about them wanting to raise money. And I started to see some new faces walking around the office, and I just knew myself and at the time still trying to get over it, but my ego is what fueled me and what led me. And so I was like, I'm not gonna work for this company if they're gonna go out and raise a bunch of money and turn this into some sort of like venture capital structure, corporate type business.
I feel you on that, man.
Yeah,
I really do.
It just didn't resonate with me. I already could tell I was going to kind of butt heads with primarily because of my ego, but I could already tell I was going to butt heads with who was going to essentially become the new CEO. So I essentially decided to kind of part ways, and I parted ways, and I started my own company. And I started my own company.
And when was this? When you started your company?
Oh, geez, 2015.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, 2015.
That was a little while ago. Okay. Yeah.
I'm an old dog in this. I'm old.
You're not that much older than me, man.
Well, I'm turning 39 here in a couple months.
Yeah, I'm turning 35 in a couple months.
Yeah.
So, hey.
Still in this industry, I'm feeling old.
Yeah.
I'm feeling old. Yeah. 14 years in this industry.
Anyway, so you started your company.
Yeah. So, kind of an interesting story. I'll go into a little bit of detail because I'm not here to throw shade on anybody. Because I love everybody in this industry. It's what allowed me to kind of get here. But yeah, Cody and I were like, fuck this. We can kind of do it ourselves. Yeah. And we started kind of talking a little bit at lunch and a little bit after hours, and we were like, we're going to do this ourselves. So me being kind of me, I'm like, well, I'm for sure doing this. Like, there's no doubt about it. Like, I'm going to quit on the, I'm going to quit and I'm going to do it. And Cody was a little bit apprehensive, we'll say, but he was still, kind of a part of it. I was lucky enough to partner up with, also have Kel and Jeremy at the time down in St. George. They were my cousins.
Oh, Kel.
Kel Goodman.
He's your county?
Yeah, he married my cousin. There's since now passed, but his kids we're all related essentially. Kel's a good buddy of mine. Cool, yeah, shout out to Kel, shout out to Jeremy, shout out to Trevor Cowley.
Yeah, that's awesome, man.
Yeah, amazing dudes. Like seriously. Kel's always been inspiring me ever since I was like 14 years old, and he married my cousin at 15, not to kind of go down that rabbit hole, but he talks about it all, or has on his podcast and stuff, but those guys are studs. Yeah. And so I was lucky enough to be related to Kel and to be able to call Kel and say, hey, this is the opportunity that I have and that I'd like to bring down to you, because you have a sales organization, you've got a call center infrastructure. We can make this happen real fast, like literally overnight. And so him and Jeremy were like, yeah, let's do it. And at the time, Trevor was essentially our lead sales guy who then stepped in, saved the company. And I broke off and kind of did my own thing up in Salt Lake. Anyways, kind of a funny story. The day that we started our business, I got a cease and desist letter, a bunch of crazy text messages with all sorts of threats and stuff like that, which essentially was the start of that company trying to essentially sue me for breaking off and kind of doing my own thing. But I had a great attorney, and he just said, hey, put your head down and go to work and I'll handle this. And
nice.
That's essentially what he did. And,
that's cool, man.
He was shout out to Travis.
Man, that gives you the confidence to really do whatever you want to do when you have someone like that that's your back.
It was amazing. At 25, I was scared shitless because I was of the heat that I was getting. They were also making some like weird threats about
Makes you feel like you're doing something wrong.
Yeah, they made me. They did, and they made some weird threats about my family and stuff like that. And they're gonna tarnish my reputation amongst my friends that were working there, and they did. But my friends had my back. I knew everything that was going on. Anyways, this is a funny story. Kind of a cool story.
Going back to like the stuff that you deal with getting into this industry, you deal with that kind of stuff. It's real.
Yeah, I mean, you can for sure, especially if you're trying, especially if you're, you work for somebody and then you're trying to kind of like do it better than them. And at the time, again, I was very ego fed, so I was very loud, and I'm still trying to kind of calm that down a little bit.
Really, I can't even see that. Every time we get together, you're like really quiet and.
Yeah, that's what happens when you get smacked in the face a couple times.
That makes sense. And I'm like loud over here. So
I'm just I'm quiet and confident. I know, I kind of know what I've been down that road before. I've had my ego, I've had to deal with my ego quite a bit. Yeah. So I'll tell you a little bit about that. So then I start my brokerage. My attorney's like, put your head down. I just put my head down. In our first year, I think we did like almost $2 million.
Oh, no way.
I think we did like $1.9 million in our first year. A lot of that help was because of Trevor. Trevor's like one hell of a sales guy and is just one hell of a person and a business owner. And one of the main reasons why that company is so successful. Shout out to Easier Accounting. But Trevor was instrumental in the catalyst of our success. And then we kind of broke off, did our own thing. I was down in St. George. I wanted to get back up to Salt Lake. We were young. My ego was kind of getting in the way. I felt like everything I touched turned into gold. And they were a couple of years ahead of me saying, hey, your ego's a little bit ahead of you. And, we need to settle down a little bit and kind of calm down. Me being me at the time, I was like, no, I'm going to just go out and do my own thing. You guys take this business model, run with it. And I'm going to take the same business model and start my own company. Right. In hindsight, not sure if that was the best decision because those dudes crush it and they're amazing, but it was my entrepreneurial journey and, has put me where I'm at today. And I was essentially back on an island by myself trying to figure it out. But then we grew direct business lending from, 0 employees to over 100 employees with 2 offices.
Amazing.
Yeah. Top 10 company to work for in the state of Utah, by Glassdoor and Deseret News, couple years in a row. So that was cool. And, then, had a few little run-ins along the way. When I was, 27, the state of Utah was like, hey, you need to have your telemarketing license. You've been telemarketing with a big call center for the last couple of years. Shame on you. We're going to fine you. So I had a little run-in with the state there. And
no heads up. Not like, hey, by the way, here's a warning.
Not really.
Hey, you owe us money.
Yeah, essentially it's like you've been running a business without your telemarketing license for 2 years. We're going to fine you.
Why did they tell you 23 months ago?
Well, they didn't know.
Oh, okay.
Essentially. And I didn't know you needed. I didn't know you needed to. Right. Yeah. We were doing a lot of sales and a lot of volume, and a consumer was checking us out and saying, hey, I'm getting solicited by this company. And then the state looked into us and said, well, this company doesn't have a telemarketing license. They shouldn't really be telemarketing to you. So then let's open up an investigation. Then when they open up an investigation, they're like, oh, you've been in business for 2 years. You're making hundreds and hundreds, if not thousands of essentially, not say unsolicited because they all were warranted people opting in, but we didn't have a license to be making telemarketing
But they wanted
calls.
To track that. And
yeah, it's, how the government works. There's a license for everything except for our industry, being a business loan broker outside of a couple states. But you can see that's also coming down the pike as well.
Yeah, with what's it called, the disclosure document.
Disclosure documents. New York, Utah's got it. A couple other states are implementing it as well. We'll go down that rabbit hole too in future episodes because that's super important. It is important for business loan brokers to know about the disclosures that are out there.
I dealt with that today.
Yeah, and how they need to be disclosed. So So then, so I had my little run in there. We quickly realized that funding is just a piece of the game, at least for us. We quickly realized that there's a whole other way to make money monetizing your non-bankable customers. So we started offering credit repair and business credit building, a couple other services. A couple years later, the state came back to me and said, hey, we know you got your telemarketing license, but you're also operating a credit repair company. I said, yeah, no, of course. I turned over all my scripts over to you 2 years ago. That's why I have my license. You know I'm operating credit repair. They're like, oh, well, by the way, you need to have your credit repair, your CSO license, which is a credit service organization license, essentially a license to be able to do credit repair. So I'm like, oh shit, okay, I didn't know that. Shame on me. Slap my wrist, give me a fine. So I pay my fine. Immediately, 2 weeks later, I've got my CSO license.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
nice.
Then we're good. We're growing. We're killing it. We're crushing it. I'm opening up my second office, and then I decide to start training because I realize a lot of brokers are referring us deals, and I start to notice there's a lot of commission being paid out to brokers. So then I start to train brokers that are referring us deals, and then they start to increase their volume. And then I said, well, there's something here, and I'm helping people. I've got the infrastructure. Yeah. People can make money becoming a business loan broker, and I can provide them training, and I've got the whole back end support. So my company was called Direct Business Lending at the time. Okay. Then we rolled out Direct Business Lending Agents, which is kind of like a little franchise opportunity. Gotcha. We were selling that for $15,000 to $20,000, and we were helping people enter the industry. Jeez. Yeah, wow. They were doing really well. And that ultimately is what birthed the Business Loan Broker Academy, which is like the first online business loan broker training program for our industry. And that's how I found out about you. That's how we kind of connected. That's how we connected back in, was it just a few years ago? Yeah, just a few years ago. Yeah, that's how, yep. So this is important, but that's how I got connected to Jansen, and it's cool stuff, man. Yeah. So then we created Business Loan Broker Academy, trained like over 3,500 brokers. That was like kind of wildly successful. And then that got acquired by nav.com. And I stuck around with Nav for a little while. We also got into a little tiff, legal tiff, if you will. And that ended up settling outside of court. I stuck to my 1-year non-compete and agreed to that, and built Fincy essentially in the dark. And Fincy's essentially a training tool and a technology to be able to support the business loan brokers. So now we've got our 5 T's with Fincy. We've got our training, we've got our technology, we've got our transaction assistance, so our ability to like process files for business loan brokers, helping them build teams, and then essentially just trying to be fully transparent as far as like, here's the lenders we're working with when we process your files, here's how much commission is made and can be made, and then just being fully transparent to be able to fully support the business loan brokers that are out there, and support their brands. And so far so good. And here we are today, and we're launching our podcast, and just, fully committed to the industry, and fully committed to helping other business loan brokers see success. So long and short, no, that was where we're at. That was awesome, man. I didn't know, I knew a lot about mostly in like the last 5 years with you. Yeah. But like started from collecting trash for 25 cents in a little trailer with your bike, and then newspapers, and then, seeing an entrepreneur dad and him working hard. And then now, multiple businesses, hundreds of employees over the years that you've talked to, and the amount of relationships that you've cultivated and created and moved on from too. And then now, like you said, we have Fincy, we have the podcast, and there's a lot of brokers out there that are probably working a job that really want to do something different. And this is what this podcast is for. Yeah. I mean, the opportunity is yours as a business loan broker, as someone who wants to maybe enter into this industry. It's not saturated at all. There's tremendous amounts. No, not even close. There's tremendous amounts of opportunities, a lot of low hanging fruit. And it's a real business. It's a real sustainable business. It's something you can get behind. You can do it in your basement, but you can also.
I do it in my condo.
Yeah, you can do it in your condo. You can be a basement broker. You can be a solo broker. You can be a closer broker. There's all these different types of personalities of different types of brokers. You can be, we
should talk about that, by the way.
Yeah, exactly. And like an architect broker, which is kind of like more where I'm at, which is more just kind of being a facilitator, putting the pieces together, leveraging relationships, leveraging contacts, leveraging what you know, and be able to put things together pretty quickly, and then having the dominoes knocked down. So the industry is amazing. It's, the opportunity is yours. The business loan broker industry is your oyster, Yeah. Seize the opportunity.
It's a great industry, man.
Yeah. It's super forgiving. And so, yeah, I love it. I think this podcast is going to help out a lot of people.
Oh, I already know. Yeah. I mean, I know I'm biased here, but if there was somebody else sitting here that's not us and I came across this, I would be listening to every single day in my car.
Yeah. That's cool.
I know that sounds weird because we're obviously here doing this, but there's not a lot of information out there. Typically what's out there is older stuff. Like you said, it's now, there needs to be a recharge, more education. I think that is awesome that you even have that mission to share that with everybody, and so do I, especially for the newer folks.
And we're closing deals. Like you're working on closing deals every single day.
I closed one yesterday.
Yeah, there we
Literally,
go.
I close I'm starting to close. Well, I wouldn't say I close every day. I want to, but I'm starting to get a lot of deals coming in.
Yeah, your traction is amazing.
It's amazing, and they're all different sizes. I can make a few $100s or more.
Yeah,
but it pays the bills, and it's amazing. And I am closing. I can confidently say that I am closing deals, and I have business coming in, and it feels so good.
And the pipeline's just getting more and more full.
Yeah, it's getting more and more full. I just did a pipeline report just a couple yesterday. I went through my entire pipeline, and I was looking at it, and I was like, there's so much in there. Like, that's going to close over the next few months. And I'm like, this is great. I'm going to reinvest that back into my company so I can grow even more.
Exactly.
I get a VA.
Yes.
And so, yeah, man, it's amazing. And you're really inspiring, Jansen, because I've seen what you do, and I've seen the multiple companies, and this company isn't the only thing I want to do. Eventually I want to start a software company. There's other software companies I want to do, and which actually had nothing to do with finance, but it takes time to get there. And there's a process, and we all have dreams. But thank you so much for sharing that story. I think it's really important to hear, we have a legend that's been doing this for over a decade. We have somebody that's been doing this for over under 12 months. And I'm just so excited, man. Yeah. Do you want to end the podcast today?
Yeah, I think this is a good spot to end. Okay. So, yeah, guys, thank you so much for joining us on our first episode. Like, share, comment, review. Yeah. Find us on social media. Like Evan said, he primarily is on Facebook, right? So find him on Facebook, and find me on Facebook. And we look forward to sharing more insights with you. Yeah. And we'll see you guys on the next episode. Thanks so much.
See you guys.